Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's intended to give folks in the community some idea of what's going on in the places around us, both here in Bourne and also in Barnstable County, where Bourne is one of the 15 towns that make that up. Now, people might not be aware of this, but there's a very vibrant and alive county government in Barnstable County, also known as Cape Cod. And with me today, I have Beth Albert, who is the county administrator. Welcome, Beth.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Beth, I'm so glad to see you. I remember those halcyon days when you were the head of Human Services.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that in those days, we looked at you as being the honest broker that provided coordination, collaboration, and support to the community of what I'd call the nonprofits. I think there are 1,500 nonprofits on Cape Cod.
Well, that includes the arts community and just, not just the health and human service nonprofits, but the broader nonprofit community. Yep.
So you bring a sense of social justice, in my opinion, to your job. So you've been there since April?
So, well, as you know, you hired me in 2008. So I was the Director of Human Services for the county from 2008 until this past April, when I became the county administrator. So I've been in that role since about April 1st.
Okay.
So, yeah, almost a year.
So what are the similarities and what are the differences?
Interesting. That's a good question. So as the Director of Human Services, I mean, really our job there was a lot of what we did there and continue to do. We've hired a new director and a new deputy director, Joe Pacheco and Mandy Speakman, and they're doing a very good job. But I mean, part of the core mission really of the department was to bring people together to mobilize the community around pressing human service issues. So there was quite a bit of bringing outside groups together, coming up with a plan, using data, coming up with an action plan and an approach. Oftentimes that included bringing federal and state dollars, and continues to include bringing federal and state dollars to the region to address pressing human service issues. So that's what I did for 13 years almost. And we did some really great work around homelessness, suicide prevention, children's behavioral health, aging and disability, et cetera. So in this new position as county administrator, it's different in a lot of ways because it is the day-to-day operations and keeping things running of all the different county departments. The policy direction is, as you know, through our 3 county commissioners, who are the executive branch of the county. And then we have a 15-member legislative branch made up of a representative from each of the 15 towns. So some of those core values in approaches that I had in human services are part of how I operate, and so I bring those with me. But the day-to-day work is very different. They're bigger. I shouldn't say bigger, but there are regional issues that the county's very involved in addressing.
What are the most important ones today?
Well, I think,
in your opinion,
in my opinion, yes, of course, this is my opinion. I don't think anyone would disagree that water quality and housing, making sure that we have an adequate supply of the types of housing that people who live here year-round and who work here year-round need. I don't think there are too many people who would debate that water quality and housing are the 2 most critical and pressing regional issues that we face on the Cape.
Sadly, those are the 2 issues that were closest to my heart when I was serving,
right.
Especially water quality, because people come here for the purity and the pristine nature of our environment, and they don't appreciate the fact that we are sitting on 6 different lenses of fresh water, and without fresh water, we wouldn't survive. So one of the, I don't know if people are aware of it, but the Cape Cod Commission, unlike some of the other regional planning commissions, is actually an arm of county government.
That's right. There's, it's interesting, and I say this to department heads all the time. So yes, Cape Cod Commission has a chief operating executive officer. The county also has about 10 other departments. The county dredge, we run the dredge, the cooperative extension, which is, a lot of natural resources and food and agriculture. Children's Cove, the Child Advocacy Center, is a department of Barnstable County.
Spend a little time on Children's Cove, because I think that when I used to do the dog and pony shows going out to the to the towns,
Right.
I would bring up Children's Cove and their advocacy for children, and pointed out something very important. And the thing I pointed out to them was that every town in in the county had issues with regard to child abuse, sexual abuse. And they would say, no, it doesn't happen here. And I bring out the data.
Right.
And they were shocked.
Right.
And the point is that that the value of Children's Cove, and I bring this up because people need to know this, is that when they discover that abuse is going on, they do attempt to set up, and I think they still do this, set up what I'd call a therapeutic liaison, so that the child who is the victim will not be abandoned, if there does not turn out to be a forensic outcome. And a forensic outcome means, criminal
Right.
prosecution. So it's very important that people realize that this is one of the things that the county does
Right.
that affects the safety that we have. It used to be that the vision of the county was that we were interested in, maintaining and improving the quality of life here. Okay, so you got the Cove, okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about the
Sure.
planning, about the Cape Cod Commission. So go on. So there's-
Sure. So let's see. So I did the dredge, Children's Cove, cooperative extension, and we also have some, systems that support the county and actually are working with some of the towns, like our IT department. I think in the past year, Human Services is another department. In the past year, I think the most visible county department would have been the Department of Public Health, which is, when you talk about this coordination and collaboration role that the county plays, it was so very apparent during the immediate emergency response, where we were all, March 13th of 2020, the county closed, there was emergency declaration, many of us jumped in and we're doing a lot of different work around coordination in response to COVID. But our public health department run under Sean O'Brien and
I'm
Erica
so proud of
Woods.
Sean.
Yeah,
He's done a
great
wonderful job.
And Erica Woods is the deputy, and our public health nurse, and all of the, I could go on, but I'm just so impressed with the Medical Reserve Corps and all of the work that they did in vaccination clinics. I mean, it was a all-hands-on-deck effort. But
I don't think people are aware of the Medical Reserve Corps. It's quite an operation.
Yeah.
And it's almost in shadows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Communication is something that that I'm very focused on, and making sure people know what Barnstable County does and all of the different functions, because that's our job, is to make sure people know the different services and supports and the role that we play, and that the county government is not the town of Barnstable. It's people, because we count Barnstable County, the town of
However,
Barnstable. People get confused by that.
Yes, I do remember
yes.
that, and I made a point of actually being a member of many of the city of Barnstable,
Oh,
because it is a city. They have a town council, a city council,
town
city
council.
council. And they hire the manager, to run things. I joined many of the committees at the city of Barnstable, because I wanted to make sure that the county had a presence in what is the largest community, on Cape Cod.
When you were the county commissioner. When you were Barnstable
When I
County
was a
commissioner.
Barnstable County Commissioner.
Understood.
And actually was doing more in Barnstable than I was in Harwich. But at the same time, Barnstable, especially the village of Hyannis, was providing a lot of services throughout the community, and there was a legitimate concern on the part of the other 14 towns that that they had about the other 14 towns, that they weren't carrying their fair share, of the burden that's going on. And, part of that was logistics. Most of the services were
Well,
available.
let's think, transportation's there, the hospital's there. Many of our, we've got a community health center there. I mean, there are a lot of, it's where the most people live in the town of Barnstable. Is the most populated town. So yes, that criticism or that concern has been raised, and especially oftentimes in response to homelessness. I've been in many meetings where that was brought up, and it's there is a really good regional approach to that particular issue. I mean, we've got agencies on the Outer Cape, we've got agencies in the Upper Cape. County's role is really bringing those folks together, making sure they're communicated, they're sharing data, and sharing whatever resources we can bring into the region. So, anyways, getting back to the county's role, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention we have a very active facilities department. As you know, the county, Barnstable County, sits in that iconic spot on 6A in Barnstable Village with the Superior Courthouse. And our facilities department, again, kind of when you talk about things that support the county, they do a great job in making sure our tenants, the courts are happy, and also keeping those grounds as beautiful as they are.
It was kind of sad that a lot of the commercial activities, left the village because they had a bank and dry cleaners and some. I think the restaurants are still there.
Yeah, the restaurants are there,
Yeah.
and Barnstable Market's there, which is a tremendous place, and Nirvana Coffee Shop is
Oh,
there,
yeah.
which is, so no, it's pretty vibrant. It's pretty vibrant for that small little area. Yeah, definitely.
And, when we talk about that, people don't appreciate the fact that Barnstable County is a collection of all of these little villages where, all of these things, that go on, and each one of them have their own unique charm,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the cooperative extension, because that's probably the one that most people are connected to because of, let's see, are they still running the Master Gardeners program?
They are still running the Master Gardener program. They're still running the Buy Fresh, Buy Local, so they're very involved in that. There was a food access coordinator that was hired during COVID, because one of the things, again, in this theme of coordination, during COVID there was never a shortage of food. It was really making sure we were linking people who needed the food to the particular resource. And so, and people, at least in the beginning of COVID, were very generous and giving and making sure that all of their neighbors, they were funding for the nonprofits that were providing these essential services. So collaboration between not only does the county departments collaborate with outside agencies, there's also oftentimes cross-departmental collaboration. And so the food access piece was huge because the Department of Human Services was working on food access for vulnerable populations. The cooperative extension, because of Buy Fresh, Buy Local, and the fact that they have nutritionists on staff, were also looking at food access. And so we did hire a food access coordinator who's working with all the food pantries and the different churches that distribute food. And there are so many different players, in that food access, are providing food and nutritional food to people in need, that it required a little bit of coordination, and that work continues.
I was actually I was at another meeting yesterday in Falmouth, and they had a representative from Elder Services. I think they're in Dennis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their offices are in Dennis. Yes.
And that's one of the nonprofits that I think that they were on the county's list for supporting their Meals on Wheels program.
Back in the day, yep. Back in the day.
Is the county still putting money into that?
No, the grants to nonprofits through the county general fund, that practice stopped several years ago. However, Elder Services, as the regional area agency on aging and also the services access point, is a critical organization that's both federally recognized and recognized by the state as
Mhm.
should be the hub for access for seniors that need information and referral, and many of the programs that they offer to support people in their homes. So there's always been a very close relationship between the county Department of Human Services and Elder Services, supporting each other's work.
One of the things that we talked about last, in this meeting yesterday with Elder Services was some of the suicide prevention
Efforts,
activities,
yeah.
outreach, that they're doing. And I know the county has, I think they're continuing to do that. Don't they have a?
So this was something, when I was the Director of Human Services, we piloted, I guess, or created the Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition with a lot of community stakeholders. It wasn't just Barnstable County. But I have to say it was a huge part of the work that I did for many years. We brought the people together, created a structure for them, and then it's no longer, the leadership is not the county leadership anymore. We've got some people who are, subject matter experts. This is what they do. But no, that really was an initiative that was started by the county through the Department of Human Services and the Cape and Island Suicide Prevention Coalition. Again, in that vein of collaboration and coordination and connectivity, there are 10, 15 agencies working, or nonprofits working in the area of suicide prevention, in addition to our state partners, right? The Department of Mental Health, Department of Children and Families, bringing all of those folks together, again, around coordination so that everybody knows what everybody else is doing, instead of duplicating, where can we leverage. And that, again, is an illustration, illustration of what the county can do, even though long-term we haven't continued in the leadership role.
But the point is that launching something like that gives it what I'd call a momentum that will continue, whereas if it stayed in the county, there's a certain amount of inertia that comes from being in a government agency, and it doesn't have the, what I'd call the dynamic quality of having more community involvement, because the access is through a government agency as opposed to being, out there as a nonprofit.
That's a good point. I think with a lot of coalitions and, networks that I've worked with over the years, the key really is to have designated staff, somebody that needs to be responsible for making sure there's follow-up and things get done and there's reporting back. Otherwise, it does become, unfortunately, you meet for the sake of meeting. And so I'm glad that the Cape and Islands, there's been some recent communication, email communication that I've been involved in. I'm glad the group is, it was actually in the paper this morning. They're having a post-vention, what they call a post-vention forum. So that's a community response following suicide. Because as we know, it's very...
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the activities of the Cape Cod Commission, since it is a county department. Is Christy communicating with you about what their big focus is right now?
So I know Christy's been on your show before, and she is the best person for you to speak to about the specifics. But absolutely, Christy and I speak frequently, aware of the initiatives that they're working on, and how the county can support some of these regional initiatives, especially around water quality. There's a regional housing strategy that they're working on and going to be releasing.
About that, yeah.
And again, not to go back to the Department of Human Services, but when I talked about the interdepartmental collaboration, the HOME program, which is the federal program that provides funding through Barnstable County to the 15 towns for affordable housing development, the staff in that program are working closely with commission staff, and so there's been some really good synergy there and some work. So Christy and I talk frequently.
There was a time when the county had a water quality committee that that had members from the towns. I remember Leo decided that he didn't like that, so that went away. What are they doing with regard to let's say working with groups like was the Protection of Cape Cod?
Association to Preserve Cape Cod.
Yeah.
So there are, and again, this, in my position, there's been a very steep learning curve. I mean, you can imagine there's many things the county is involved in. But there is a wastewater collaborative that is working about, using funds coming from the room rental tax to fund some of the wastewater quality issues.
No,
There
really,
is.
is that the, do they participate in the funding from the, what do you call it, the short-term rentals too?
Yeah, there's a portion that goes for water.
Oh,
that's
okay.
been, yeah, set
That
aside for
seems to be
water.
something new.
I would be,
You can only speak to what you know.
I can only speak to what I know. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. And I know this much about that, and I'm learning quite a bit more because there are different groups, et cetera, working on it. And then just how all these, the water quality monitoring that's going on. I mean, the commission's going to take a large role in that, in pulling the data together and making sure that it's available to the public.
Mhm.
And so that work is ramping up. So, if I come back at a future date, I would probably have a little bit more information for you.
Well, I would look to you to tell me when you wanted to come back, because
Okay.
you're always welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, we've talked sort of in general terms, about what's going on.
Mhm.
Perhaps we should get into a little bit of specifics as to what kind of data do you think that people in the county should be aware of, as far as, let's say, the accomplishments of what the county is doing for the county?
So, interestingly enough, I think I mentioned earlier, communication is increasing the communication and the visibility and the outflow and interactiveness of county information is one of my goals that the
Mhm.
commissioners gave me when I was hired, one of many. And to that end, we do have a communications manager now, which was a position I don't think we had when you were there.
No, we didn't. We used to talk a lot about it.
Yeah, no, we do have a communications manager, and so we are really lifting our visibility. We'll be launching a new website, a whole revamped Barnstable County website in April.
Really?
As part of county, I think it's County Awareness Month, or I think NACO
Okay.
recognizes April as
Yeah.
County Month. And so you'll be hearing more about that. So
Mhm.
there's been a communications internal work group. We hired a vendor, and we're now, going to be revamping the website, which we needed
Mhm.
to do. So we're freshening all of that up, and hopefully it will be a point where, the public can go and access things, and it's not going to be as challenging as it might be right now with our current website. I will also say that one of the things that happened during COVID is that the county created a hotline, a number that people, remember when nobody knew where to get vaccine, and you were waiting for...
One of my campaign things when I first ran was the number of the county was unlisted.
Oh,
So we're talking about communications.
Yeah.
And I remember being on some radio program said, "Oh, it's impossible." I said, "Look it up." There was no number for Barnstable County in the telephone book.
wow.
You remember telephone books,
Yeah.
It was in all the papers. We don't have that anymore. You have the internet.
Right.
So anyway, that was one of the things that,
Well, see,
that
Bill,
happened.
so,
that-
but there was, during COVID, I mean, people were you remember, people were so frustrated. I mean,
Mhm.
you would try to get an appointment for a vaccination, and you'd be waiting 24 hours. And so there was a COVID hotline. But that, because we had that service, many of those people, we've got a lot of traffic to the county website now because of that, and going to the health department for all kinds of COVID updates, and where can I get my testing, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been a boon as far as driving traffic to our website. But yeah, in April, we're going to be releasing a new website with a refreshed look and reorganization of data, and hopefully will be much easier for the community to access.
as important as internal communication is within the county, one of the things that I was involved with when I was a county commissioner was I was active in something called the National Association of County Officials. And I used to get a lot of kudos from them because of the Cape Cod Commission because of our human service programs, and because of a lot of the things that, that we did. And I wasn't bashful about telling them how proud I was of being part of it. I don't think we're active in that anymore.
I don't know how active you were. I have not been active in it. I do get their, I
Okay.
get their
Are you still a member of it?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm still a member of it.
Yeah,
The county is still a member of it. We still get their communication. Trying to think, they actually, when, with some of the federal funding, with some of the COVID federal relief funding, NACO was one of the first places I went to get information about it, and so they offered some really great webinars. So that, I still use their resources. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anyone's carried on some of the.
No, I don't think so.
Some of the work that you
Because
did.
in addition to representing Barnstable County, I was appointed to be the board member for Massachusetts when I was active with
wow.
it.
Huh.
And well, first of all, it was great fun, going to conventions and things like that. But the most important thing was they gave me some insight as to what legislative priorities for counties were
Yes.
going on, and
Yeah.
it gave me some opportunity to, let's say, to push for things at the federal level, which we wouldn't be able to afford to do, directly from the county. So I would, I'll give you that pitch about.
Noted.
Mark would know about it.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah. No,
and-
they
and-
do. They do have. They do on their website. They do keep all the legislative updates
Yeah.
on legislation that's impacting counties.
And,
Yes.
and as a member, I'm sure that you could influence that if you had something that particularly, you wanted to take advantage of. Okay, well, we're sort of getting to the end of all of this, believe it
Okay.
or not.
Wow.
And this is the time when I ask you about what kind of a takeaway would you want people to have from this program?
Takeaway was, I think, one, I think Barnstable County is unique in that we have a regional county government that's extremely active and robust, and I think the county, we have an obligation to continue to communicate to the people who live here about the role that we play, about the programs we offer, about the work that we do that benefit the region. And so that would be my takeaway, Bill.
Okay, well, then I would say that people should go to, www.barnstablecounty.org.
Yes.
And that look forward to both the present one, which isn't bad, even though some folks might find it challenging, and the future one that's going to be much more user-friendly
Yep.
as far as finding out things directly.
Right.
But all the meetings, and I think you meet on Wednesdays.
The commissioners?
Yeah.
Yep, the county
What-
commissioners meet, right now we're in budget season, so we're meeting every Wednesday. We had moved to an every other Wednesday schedule, so, but
Okay,
right
so-
now we're in budget.
And they are indeed open meetings.
They are.
And you might have great fun in going there. And if
Well, so, and they're videotaped, they're streamed live, they're available on YouTube. We have, at least during budget, we've gone back to virtual meetings with, because there was, with the virus, rearing its ugly head again. And so at some point, we'll be going back to
Okay.
in-person meetings.
So with that, Beth Albert, the county administrator, thank you very much for coming. And I want to thank the viewers for finding out more about one of my favorite topics, which is Barnstable County.
Thanks,
So
Bill.
you've been watching Bill's Bullpen on Born TV.